Hey, Not So Average Jose here, and it is Tuesday, so that means it's Blu-ray Tuesday. This week I'm reviewing, probably should have had it more ready, but Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie from 1995, and this is the double pack with Turbo, the Power Rangers movie, or a Power Rangers movie, whatever you want to call it. And it was fun to watch. I'll say that. It was fun to watch. It had a lot of stuff that just, wow, like, I know my mom says I used to watch it like almost every day when I was a little kid. I grew up loving Power Rangers, superheroes of all kind. That's my thing. It's been my thing from birth. Before birth, she used to watch Power Rangers before I was even born. It's no surprise that I grew up watching this movie, and I have quite a bit to say about it. I really do. The reason I picked this movie is because this Friday we're going to see Power Rangers again in theaters. So they start off with the Star Wars scroll, and it's painfully slow, and they read it off, and when they get to the end of it, you're like, that's it? Like, it took you over 30 seconds to read all of that, and like the reader, viewer, whatever you want to call them, could have finished reading it in 20 seconds. I'll speed it up for you right here. Yeah, it's way too slow. It really is. And you see the amount of text, it's just, what? No. The movie starts off with something that's become really famous for this movie, the skydiving scene. The team is in a plane with Bulk and Skull, and these are characters that aren't fully introduced, and it's because it's expected that you've seen the TV show. So a lot of the villains and side characters aren't introduced. There's actually this kid and his dad that are kind of a subplot, but they're not very important, though, I mean, they kind of are, but then, like, you don't see them for about an hour. And skydiving, skating, these guys are just super active, and they want to make sure that you understand that, and that's how they're super fit, not because they're Power Rangers or teenagers with attitude, which they kind of butcher the line in the movie, which is kind of sad. I mean, that's one thing that's constantly in the intro. And then Tommy's watch goes off, and the tone is completely wrong. The one we remember, the one we see in the show for years, is totally wrong in the movie. Why? I don't know. The watch is even different. So the Rangers get called to the command center, and it's loaded with LEDs and plasma stuff, plasma lights, plasma balls, because it's gotta look sciencey, it's gotta look magical, amazing, and totally different from the show. So I don't fully understand why they couldn't have just used the one from the show, use that money to, I don't know, put it somewhere else, like writers, because that would have made more sense. So at the construction site, the guy who's talking to Bulk and Skull when they land, they're like, who the hell are you? Hey, look, dude, there's something over here. Okay, let me go see. Like, not even caring that Bulk and Skull aren't really supposed to be there, and they don't escort them or anything. They're all like, hey, look, a shiny thing. Like, there's this hole in the ground, like a sewer thing, and they're like, hey, let's remove it, and a giant egg pops up, and it's like in a claw. So the egg is right here, and it's being held by the claw, and dude's like, hey, let's touch it. Idiot, you don't touch that shit. You don't if you see something that's weird, you don't touch it. Bad things happen when you touch things that are weird. So I guess enough time has passed by that it's night, and Lord Zed and Rita and Godar, and I don't remember the pig's name because I don't remember him being in the show that much until later on. And again, you're not gonna know who these characters really are until you've seen the show, which, if you're just starting off with the movie, sorry, that's it. So the egg is opened up by Lord Zed, and it opens up in the weirdest way. Like, you think you crack an egg and just like parts of the shell come out. No. top half splits in two and opens like that. It's so stupid. But anyway, there's a bunch of ooze in it, because the guy's name who comes out is Ivan Ooze, and terrible CGI. But there is one thing that I found interesting. When the Rangers arrive, the color streaks that they make looks very similar to what a little bit later Ivan Ooze flies away in, like the same way. So I didn't really think about it that much. I was just like, oh, well, I guess they're just using the same effect. Again, it didn't really hit me until he flies away, goes to the command center, and Alpha's like, oh, don't worry, Zordon, no one can break in. Unless you have a power coin. Oh no! I guess he can break in. He has this thing in his chest, like lower chest. Looks like one of the new power coins from the new movie, but I mean, that's why I started thinking, was this guy a Power Ranger in the past, like 6,000 years ago? I know Zordon's old, Rita's old, Lord Zed is old, but why Angel Grove, I don't fully know, whatever. And then, once he's in, like, Zordon starts basically yelling at him, I guess, but in the most Zordon way possible, like, calmly. And Ivan Ooze is like, oh, I've been back for like 10 minutes and I'm already getting one of your speeches. This guy's starting to seem more like, hey, he used to be a ranger. This every fight is just hilarious in this movie. This one in particular, they all like go down to lower ground to have a flatter area to fight, I guess, because they're at, like, I guess if they fall, they're gonna get hurt, whatever. So they all jump down instead of like just go under the thing and like walk down the hill. No, they all like flip, and they all flip all the time. Like, there's no point in the movie where they're in a fight and they won't flip. Tommy at okay, so in his first flip, he jumps face forward, like face down, magically lands on his feet facing the other way. Doesn't make sense, okay, like, it's a Power Rangers movie, don't take it too serious, whatever. To move from one place to another, they do a bunch of backflips, and I guess Adam's been skipping on his training because he doesn't land correctly when they all group up and they're about to morph. And this is like supposed to be one of the most badass things in the movie because it's one of the most badass things in the show, and everyone waits for their character to like, it's morphin' time, and like hold the morpher out and say Tyrannosaurus or whichever ranger they wanted to correspond with. For me, it was personally Jason, so it was Tyrannosaurus. Later on it was the White Ranger, but whatever. But then morphine leads to probably my favorite funny scene in the movie. They all take so long morphing that and posing right after that the enemies just run. They run and hide. Like, they even make a point of it in the movie to make a further shot, a wider shot, to where you can see all around the Rangers and no one is there, and then Rocky's like, hey, there they are, like, let's go. Really? Like, I get, believe me, I love how funny that is, but this is supposed to be badass for the movie. Like, I hope they nail that a lot better in the new one come Friday. So when Ivan Ooze breaks into the command center, Alpha's dumbass like, huh, dude, you're a weak ass robot. Like, that's not gonna work. Just don't try. You're asking to, like, you're Alpha 5 for a reason. Alphas aren't strong. Or I forgot which Alpha that is, but I think he's 5. The movie one sounds different from the show too, which, I mean, I know I noticed when I was younger. Like, I remember knowing that and being like, why does Alpha sound different? Ivan Ooze is, of course, pissed off at Zordon, and he's like, hey, you trapped me, and now it's time to pay the piper. And literally, his hands are like right here up until he says, oh, it's time to pay the piper. And out of nowhere, just like, you don't see him move his coat, anything, and I'm sure someone, like, if someone was hiding right here, they just like handed him the flute. And we cut back to the fight scene at the construction site, and they have these helmet modifiers that never existed in the show. Like, the Yellow Ranger's helmet like has headlights. It's ridiculous. Like, the helmet looks bigger, and it isn't really useful because they're like, oh, it's dark, we need light. Like, there's plenty of light. Like, the light it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. And then when it's convenient, Rocky pulls out of his ass, hey, scanner. Makes the helmet look terrible. Yeah. There's no point in that. They just get back to fighting. And Tommy flies. He literally he just spins round and round and starts flying. I know Toppo just did that in Dragon Ball Super, but I highly doubt it's because he saw the White Ranger do it and thought it was cool. All these flips, they just don't make sense. They don't. They backflip everywhere, and Tommy flies. And Tommy at one point breaks out Saba, which is his sword / dagger from the show. Saba in the show talks. You have the money of a movie, and instead of having Saba talk and be badass, Saba just flies and lasers a cable instead of cutting it. It's a knife, it's a dagger. Like, cut the cable, don't laser beam it. They managed to make it back to the command center, and the door is supposed to be stuck, you know, like that giant door we saw. Okay, let's get 2 people to open it. No wonder Ivan Ooze broke in. He did it on his own, and he just like slipped through like liquid when these two could just... So we see that Zordon is dying, and Alpha's like, hey, you know, there's this power on a different planet, and it could save Zordon, and it could give you guys your powers back. Okay, let's go. And Tommy's always super enthusiastic. He's like, we may not have our powers, but we're still the Power Rangers. If you don't have power, you're no longer a Power Ranger. Like, you're just a Ranger, really. So Alpha says, okay, I'll do some science stuff and I'll send you to the other planet. Rangers are like, let's go. So he sends them on their way, and they land on Earth, you know, at the beach, with a lot of rocks instead of sand. But I mean, it's the beach. It's obviously Earth. I don't even remember what it's called. But then the birds that Ivan Ooze like sends to follow them, like from like he like shoots out a booger. Actually, he coughs it up, and it just like it's a little purple yolk and a bunch of birds just. And they end up flying over to that planet. They start fighting with the Rangers, and there's this hooded figure. You're like, oh, who's that? Turns out it's Shakira, and she's here to kick butt and save the day and kick the Ooze Pigeon's ass. So during this point, like, we kind of flash over to where Ivan Ooze is now, and he's with Goldar and the pig guy. He's like, hey, the evil plan is to take control of Angel Grove's parents to make them build this for me. Like, okay. Instead of like world domination, Angel Grove. You've gotten your ass kicked in Angel Grove before. Learn. Like, villains don't learn. Like, you got your ass beat here 6,000 years ago. You got it yourself locked up. Yet you're gonna hang out around here and... Okay. To each their own. So yeah, now the Rangers are hanging out with Discount Shakira, and they're... Wait, was Shakira even big back then yet? I don't know. Maybe she took inspiration from So we flash back to Joker. I mean, Ivan Ooze, who's acting like Joker, and he's dressed up as a magician, but he's giving away ooze. Like, he's not even doing magic tricks. So why are you dressed up as a magician? Why do you have a wizard's hat? Anyway, he's giving out this ooze to the kids, and it's part of his plan to take over the parents. Instead of just taking over everyone, like, you're limiting yourself, and it's gonna come and bite you in the ass after. Which, I mean, of course it will, and it does. So we go back to Shakira, and she tells the Rangers, hey, you have to go through the jungle and forest to get to the giant monolith, which they look out at, and you tell me what that looks like. So after they stop digging around, turns out Shakira was the original salt bag. I mean, check this out. Yeah, and then she totally gives an explanation as to why all these Rangers are shinobis, or, I mean, ninjas from Naruto. Gives them their new suits, which, I mean, it's not really a suit. I'm not sure what they're called, and I don't want to say the wrong word for them, because, I mean, in a way they look pretty cool, but they're ninjas from another planet? Like, okay, I guess other planets have ninjas too. So after she gives them their Naruto garbs, she tells each of them what their tailed beast is. I mean, their spirit animal is. Well, their animal for their powers is. At this point, Ooze has taken control of parents using the ooze that the kids leave at home, and the parents are all curious about. So they dip their fingers and smell that. And anyway, you see them all marching, and they're all collectively going to work like drones. Okay. Then we cut back to the Rangers, and they're literally, like Adam, the Black Ranger, says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." They're literally just ripping off some dinosaur stuff from Jurassic Park, and it looks nowhere near as good. Ivan Ooze has got these two mechs that he's got the parents like digging out and putting together, that I guess used to be his, but would have made more sense if they were his fellow Rangers mechs from like 6,000 years ago, before he got like locked up. And I mean, I'm telling you, this could have been a way better story, but I don't know what happened. So they make it to this wall, which isn't really said that that's the monolith. I mean, you just see this huge wall, and there's like statues. Tommy, like a dumbass, walks up, touches one of the statues, and as soon as he turns around, it tries to kill him. And turns out there's like 4 of them. They have to beat him, and again they start with the flipping and flying, mainly Tommy flying, to the point where he does a corkscrew kick. And but before that, Rocky's dumbass, like, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna help Adam, jump!" And like doesn't affect the bad guy, the stone statue thing, and almost falls and dies. Like, you couldn't have thought of something better there? Well, again, back to the corkscrew kick. It's just as ridiculous as the multi-kick, flying kick thing that Tommy did at the beginning. Again, done by Tommy. Why? Because he's the coolest character out of all of these. Even though, I mean, the Pink Ranger was everyone's like crush for like forever, and amazingly, she still looks very much the same. So now that they beat the statues, they like managed to make the doors open somehow, and this little pyramid thing with a big symbol in the middle, with all the spirit animals, I mean the tailed beasts, the spirit animals, like comes out and gives them all their powers, and immediately they're like, okay, let's go. They teleport. They arrive at Angel Grove, and guess what? Ivan Ooze has already destroyed like half the town. And there's a part in here where they literally use a train set to do part of this, and I guess they ran out of budget, and I mean, I'm telling you, they could have used the money from the command center for something else. This could have been that something else. So to fight these giant robots, they have to call the Megazords, and they're all like, hey, we have new Zords. We didn't even get to see the old ones on screen. Like, what are Zords? I mean, I know what they are. I've watched the show. I know what they are. They don't. New people don't. What the hell's a Zord? Turns out it's their own, like, personal mechs. And they all fly. So not only do the Zords look terrible, I mean, especially when they get all together, they'll end up doubling up on one of the other mechs that Ivan Ooze is controlling, and they're still getting their butts kicked. Tommy, of course, being the badass, comes in with the Falcon Zord and missiles and destroys one of them after the other two are getting their butts beat. Rocky and Aisha are struggling with the other one, like just getting thrown everywhere. It's a total massacre as far as them fighting. There's clearly no winning individually, so they get them all together, but Tommy's like, no, I gotta go save the train. Okay, because you need your special moment, let's go. And this is the part with the toys, like the toy train set, and it's okay. I mean, at this point, I've suspended belief, like 30 seconds into the movie, you know, before the Star Wars scroll finished. So, and during the train sequence, I noticed something else. Tommy says something about the kids. How does he know they're kids? Like, just kids in the train. Yeah, Bull can score with them, but at no point have they interacted with Ooze enough to know that he's done anything to the parents. Or that he, like, why does he not assume there are parents in there too? Like, oh, it's just kids. There, at no point should he know that the parents aren't there. And I know I'm gonna get some sort of comment for this. And no, I'm not saying that Batman v Superman and Man of Steel are the only ones guilty of doing this. There are a bunch of movies that are guilty of doing this. These just kind of happen to be the most commonly well known for right now. They fight in the city just for a little bit, and then they're like, hey, let's go to space. And it's probably cheaper for them to do a space backdrop. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it, I'm not 100% sure, but just in case I didn't, Ivan tells the parents back at the shop or whatever, hey, you've built my machines, go jump off a cliff, I don't need you anymore. I guess he's just trying to be efficient. He doesn't want to have to take care of them. So at this point in the movie, the parents are like still on their way walking back to the construction site, because he was very specific about it. Go back to the construction site and jump off, like leap off, whatever. And here's where the kid comes into play. Like, he recruited other kids, and they're supposed to save the parents now. He uses like a hose to water them down to keep them from jumping off the cliff. But the whole time they're like chanting, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were chanting like, go and jump off the cliff. Early on, Billy throws out mentioning like, hey, I forgot what comet is passing by in like a couple days. So how do you think they beat Ooze? A giant mech getting hit by the comet. But Ivan Ooze isn't gonna let them go. He's like hugging the shit out of them, basically doing a Mayweather. They pull the desperate measure. She hits the red button, knees him in the crotch, and Ivan Ooze flies into the comet. And Rangers come back to the city. Everyone's thanking the Rangers. They save Zordon with the power of friendship. They hold hands around them and they're like, oh, together we can do anything. Which, as far as a kid's movie, that's great. But I hope they don't pull anything like that in the new movie, because that's just no. Something that I think that the kids should have realized, hey, you're talking to the Power Rangers. Like, at the end of the movie, they're like, hey, we heard you're in line for being the next Ranger because you did such a good job saving the parents. Like, at this point, I can believe they've heard about the parents being saved. Maybe about the kid being the one that, like, saved them. But how are you gonna tell the kid, like, hey, we heard you're next in line? Like, hey, you must know something. Like, a kid is gonna be like, what? Really? You think so? Like, and the kid is kind of acting like that, but he at no point questions, how do you know? Like, who told you that? Like, and they tell him this, and 22 years later, at no point has that kid been a Ranger. At least not that I heard of. I'm sure that would have been made a big deal. Like, every time Tommy returned, it was a big deal. But, like, not this? What? Do you know what this would have done for kids? It would have been awesome. But, anyway, city saved. There's literally fireworks for the Power Rangers, and then we get a mid-credit scene that I wasn't expecting. I didn't remember it. And, so yeah. Definitely Marvel movies before Kevin Feige did the end credit scene. It's funny. Doesn't really necessarily lead to anything, but I know the show kept on. And pretty much, this is where I end the review, because the movie's over. And I had fun watching it. It's definitely funny. If you want to see it before you go see the new movie, it'd be great. Because first of all, such a bad movie as far as what it looks like, story. But it's fun, especially if you grew up with the Power Rangers. And if you're going to go see the new one and you're my age, you don't give a shit about what people think about the Power Rangers. You don't. It's something you grew up with, something that you love. Like, as erroneous as it may be, like, you're gonna love it. And I love this movie. Do I know it's a bad movie? Yes. But I love it. So, until next time, guys, have a good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. I'll see you guys next time. Remember to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and bye.